What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So yes, the USC women's team did beat their first round opponent, Texas A&M CC. I don't know if that's Corpus Christi as well, but I don't know. I guess it's not the normal Texas A&M, but they beat them 87-55. Juju Watkins had 20 something points, I think like 23, but now she is the all-time scoring list in a season actually on both men and the women's side, which is pretty cool. And then they also play today, as you're watching this video, on Monday. I think later, like around 7 o'clock at night, against Kansas, the number 8 team in their side of the bracket. So I know the Kansas men team is pretty good, even though they recently lost pretty early. I think in the second round maybe. But overall, they should be able to get past this team. It looked really good that first couple minutes, at least like the first quarter, and then heading towards halftime, they kind of really didn't score that much in the second, but then they were able to pretty much step on the gas pedal and get out to a big lead. And even with Juju Watkins kind of not really scoring and being their main scorer, so I guess overall it's a good thing that they still won collectively, but hoping that she does step up in the next game to officially get them into the Sweet 16, so that'd be pretty cool for them. And then the Duke women's side did play today as well earlier in the day, and they got that upset victory over that number 2 team, Ohio State, in that area. I think it was Ragland. She was the freshman. She had like almost 30 points, or at least 30 points. That was pretty cool. And yes, they advanced to the Sweet 16. I forgot if I selected them to go on forward to the next round, because I know if they would end up playing a team I liked in the next round if they do win. Today on Monday is UConn, so either way, I would think they would lose the next round, no matter what. But I knew USC did beat Ohio State earlier in the season, the women's side, so I don't know if it was going to be the same thing with the Duke team, because they were a bit younger as well. But they got this upset victory. I think they were down by like 15, 16 points at some point, and still got like a 10-plus point victory. Same thing pretty much happened in that first round. They were down by like 9. End up winning by 11, so maybe it's gonna run out at some point, the ability to come back and still get victories and win and advance, but at least they're gonna enjoy it, and hopefully they will get into the Elite 8. So that'll be pretty cool. They haven't been that far in a while for the women's side. And then yes, the men's Duke side did play a little bit after that against James Madison University and got that victory 93-55. Jared McCain, the freshman, had 30 points, and he had 8 3-pointers in that game, which is the most threes by a Duke player in the NCAA tournament. And of course, they advanced to the Sweet 16. A little bit of a better game from the sophomores, Tyrese Proctor and Kyle Filipowski, getting over double digits, and even kind of started rocky because Jeremy Roach, their senior point guard, ended up dislocating some type of finger. It was either his pinky or the one next over, the ring finger. But either way, he still finished the game. I don't think he was really effective on offense, so hopefully it doesn't affect him in the next round. And then Jalen Blakes, the backup point guard, as he was going up for a dunk, landed pretty awkwardly, like on his back and head, and he went out, was looked at for a concussion. They said he wasn't, or he did not have one, but he wasn't going to go back into the game either way because of obviously how much they were winning by. But hopefully he will be healthy as well for the next round, because to lose 2 guys at the same position would be pretty bad for any team, but especially Duke, because I don't know if Tyrese Proctor can really lead them at that position, just because he's been pretty up and down and inconsistent his second year. It was kind of the same thing last year as a freshman, so hoping that they do get something going in the next round, advancing to the Sweet 16, both Duke men's and women's. That's going to be pretty cool next. Probably Thursday or Friday. Since they probably play Friday, they'll probably play Friday again. So either way, looking forward to those games coming up. And then, yes, the Lakers ended up playing tonight as well and beat the Indiana Pacers 150-145. So, I mean, they definitely had to score a lot of points. I forget who they played recently where they scored a bunch of points but gave up a bunch of points as well. But this was even more points than that game, which is crazy. So, yeah, obviously a lot of wins this weekend, especially for a lot of my teams on Sunday. So I'm kind of expecting the worst to come this week when it comes to them playing. But either way, it was still a pretty awesome Sunday. I'll get into why that reason is for USC football a little bit later in the video. You probably saw the other videos before this during Sunday, so I want to save that for the end. And then House of Victory has done a lot of more signings recently. They did sign Stefan Dostanic. He's on the men's tennis team. They also signed Kate Dever. She's on the women's lacrosse team. And two football guys, a cornerback transferred to Carlos Nicholson, and the running back Woody Marks, who are both from Mississippi State, but of course now they're in their NIL collective and will be out there trying to make some money for themselves, which is pretty cool. So congrats to all of them. And since draft season is upon us, pretty much almost less than a month away right now, or about a month away in April. But yeah, PFF pretty much did a list of certain teams and how many players were drafted by that position from that school. And USC, at least when they're doing the offensive side, is leading all the way. They have the most drafted quarterbacks at the number 19 in the past certain amount of drafts, which is pretty cool. They have the most running backs drafted at 39. That's good as well. And they're tied at number 1 with the most drafted wide receivers at 45. I think they're tied with Ohio State because, I mean, they've been getting a lot of good, talented guys in the league, at least their first couple years, and they kind of slow down like a Michael Thomas. But yeah, a lot of the more recent guys are from there in Alabama, but hopefully USC will get some more guys drafted. I'm pretty sure they will get both Brandon Rice and Taj Washington drafted this year, so that's going to be pretty good for them. And as I was mentioning before, leading up to this weekend, that there were a lot of very talented guys, especially on that defensive line, coming to visit USC Saturday and Sunday, and turned out to be very beneficial for USC in their recruiting efforts because they were able to flip one of the top 5-star defensive linemen from the state of Georgia, who was actually committed to the University of Georgia, and he flipped to USC this morning. That's where it kind of started, which is pretty crazy, and I would have been good with just that bit of news. But then a couple hours later, one of the top other players from the state of Georgia, the number 1 edge in the 2025 class, he's also a 4-star, so he's very talented. He could probably bump himself up to a 5-star. His name is Isaiah Gibson. He did commit to USC as well, and that was all well and dandy until a couple hours later they get a commitment from the 2026 class, so not even the class coming in next season. It's one more season from now, and he was a 4-star cornerback, and Dominic Kelly, very talented guy. I think even when they added him, they probably now have 4 players altogether. I think more like corners and safeties and 1 wide receiver in that 2026 class, and they already moved up to the number 4 overall class in the country when it comes to recruiting rankings that year, so that was good for them. Hoping to add a bit more when it comes to that class. And then a little bit after that, they added a 4-star safety in the 2025 class, and Hilton Drake Stubbs. It's either they posted Hilton or Drake. I've always known him as Hilton, but either way, he did commit to USC, one of the top guys from the state of Florida. And a lot of teams out there were kind of expecting him to go to their school, but obviously he decided to pick USC, which is really good. And that pretty much bumped up, I think, even with the first 2 guys, Terry and Gibson, with only them 2, and then adding Julian Lewis, the top quarterback in that class, well, in the 2026 class, he's still like the 3rd or 4th ranked player in 2025 as a quarterback position because they still have not re-ranked him. But even with just those 3 guys, they had already bumped themselves up to the number 3 class in 2025. I don't know exactly where they are right now, adding another 4-star, which is pretty cool. And then pretty much later in the night on Sunday, just pretty recently, they added a 4-star or 3-star, depending where you look at, defensive lineman from Texas. His name is Gus Cordova. I think we recently talked about him in the past couple of weeks, coming to visit USC, and he's kind of, it was a great pickup, I thought, because he's a very talented guy from what it looks like, size-wise and everything, what he projects out. But there was a little bit of a controversial thing with him that I guess some teams had backed off of his recruitment because there was some incident that happened during the season where one of his teammates had a peanut allergy, and then some of the teammates jokingly, supposedly, put like a peanut bar or something like that, and he's obviously allergic to peanuts, and it could be pretty deadly to him. And there's some other stories that he was still like bullied and all this stuff, and even transferred out of the school. I didn't really do that much homework. I just saw what some people wrote here and there, so it could be true, could not be true, especially when it's on social media. But there was one article that I did read from out there that, yeah, there was that one incident, and Cordova wasn't exactly the person that was pointed out in the article in the incident as the person doing it, but I'm assuming he was involved if his name was in there. And Texas said that they had backed off their offer to him and wanting to recruit him, but he recently has set up visits to Texas and Texas A&M, places like that he was going to visit, but apparently he has already canceled a visit to Texas A&M because of committing to USC already, which I think he had USC, then Texas A&M, and I forget what other school after that coming up to visit. But if he's already canceling visits, then it's obvious that he wants to come to USC. And I know USC did this last year, the last recruiting cycle with David Pale from like Pennsylvania, where he was committed to USC, and then right at the end of the season something had happened and they backed off their recruitment and took pretty much the scholarship offer away. And then all of a sudden he said he was going to Michigan, and apparently Michigan had no problem with what he was supposedly alleged of doing or whatever happened, the incident. So assuming USC did their work in all this process and were able to still, offer this guy the scholarship and still want him on the team. So either way, we'll look at the bright spot for right now. Thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a good rest of your day. Bye. Fight on.